Revealed. Incredible homeless woman transforms billionaire's life by saving his missing mother. The dawn broke like a bruised apple, casting a soft glow over the frayed edges of the bustling Midwestern town. Sarah opened her eyes, blinking against the sun's warmth, but colder were the realities that slushed through her mind like a winter chill. Her world, an old backpack, a park bench, and the whispers of dreams once cherished felt impossibly distant. Yet amid this despair, she forged ahead with a determination that life had yet to snuff out. Today, fate twisted in unexpected ways. Across the park, an elderly woman sat hunched and mumbling to herself, her fingers grasping a crumpled shawl as if the fabric could shield her from the world's harsh gaze. Instinctively, Sarah felt drawn. She approached the woman Alice. She would come to learn an embodiment of everything Sarah feared: abandonment, loss, and the ache of shattered connections. What Sarah didn't know was that beneath Alice's unkempt exterior lay the mother of Michael, a billionaire who banked on success, yet carried the weight of estrangement that loomed heavy in his gilded life. Yes, Sarah gently comforted the bewildered woman. The frayed threads of their lives began to intertwine. Objective curiosity turned into an empathetic bond as she pieced together Alice's disjointed recollections of her son's relentless rise to power a constant pursuit fueled by a hunger that left no room for warmth or family. The weight of these memories pressed against Sarah's heart. Empathy found her, gnawing at the edges of her resolve. The moral dilemma churned within her. To seek out this estranged son, this man with his polished suit and hard-earned fortune, she risked being seen as just another shadow drifting through the streets. Her shoes, worn and dusty, seemed to whisper doubts about her worthiness. What could a homeless woman offer a man who had built his castle on ambition? Yet, the flicker of Alice's somber eyes ignited something primal within Sarah. It was a call to action, a vulnerable chance to bridge a vast emotional chasm. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With trembling hands, Sarah crafted a message for Michael. Each word felt heavy, like stones thrown into a pond, ripples of potential connection and rejection moving through her veins. What if he dismissed her? What if he only saw her as a reminder of a life he'd left behind? But as anxiety gripped her, she felt Alice's gaze, a silent plea woven between them. You could mend something here, it seemed to say. Even as her mind filled with haunting questions, was Sarah brave enough to face the truth of her own worth amid such opulence? It was a split second of hesitation that nearly unraveled her purpose. Taking a deep breath, Sarah prepared to hit send. But what if? A crushing realization seized her. The essence of reconciliation and healing was a murky territory. Would Michael even care, or was she destined to remain an unseen hand in a narrative played on stages far beyond her reach? As conflicting emotions surged within her, Sarah felt weightier than before. What if this connection did not carry the warmth she wished for? Each thrum of indecision left her aching, and she could feel the stakes rise, unbearable in their intensity. Would Michael embrace the truth? Or would she simply become a passing shadow in his relentless sunlit world? The air thrummed thick with questions yet unanswered, pushing Sarah toward an uncertain future as she grappled at the precipice of possibility and fear. The moment Sarah pressed send, a mix of exhilaration and despair surged through her. It was as if she had flung a message across an expansive ocean, its fate uncertain. Was Michael out there, waiting for her words? Or was she shouting to the void? The haunting quiet of the park deepened her apprehension, amplifying the sounds of distant laughter and a traffic a stark contrast to the tumult brewing within her. With Alice beside her, her own vulnerabilities intertwined with those of the woman who had opened this door. Sarah stole a glance at the old lady's face. The faint trace of hope shimmered there, flickering like a candle fighting against the wind. And yet, for Sarah, hope felt like an alien notion, no root, no grounding, just a fragile flutter of possibility. This bond, she realized, wasn't simply about Michael and his estranged mother. It masked her own turmoil, the relentless questioning of her identity and her role in a world that had largely ignored her. Days passed, each like a semblance of eternity. Sarah found herself wearing a different armor, one tinted with newfound hope and purpose as she frequented the park with Alice, collecting their stories of warmth and connection like beads on a string. With every moment spent with her, Sarah learned the art of patience and resilience that comes from deep within. The exchange of memories unveiled an unexpected side of Sarah, one drenched in compassion that often eluded people caught in the cyclone of success. An unexpected knock on the narrative door arrived in the form of a call one crisp afternoon. It was from Michael's assistant. The brief, polished voice on the other end startled Sarah awake from her reverie, the stark, organized world of wealth crashing into her unkempt existence. After a brief exchange, she found herself invited to a meeting, a strange cocktail of opportunity and dread swirling within her. Her heart pounded as she readied herself to enter a world foreign to her, a conference room with sleek lines, polished floors, and a distant hum of ambition thick in the air. As she stepped over the threshold, the air felt charged, making her limbs feel sluggish against the current of energy. The assistant led her to a long table where polished suits and sharp eyes waited, all looking expectantly at her, a homeless woman transformed into a visitor of a realm she did not belong in. Michael entered, his presence dominating the room despite his well-tailored calm. Sarah felt herself shrink beneath the weight of a fleeting moment, the distance between them palpable. And then he spoke, words measured and cautious, searching for the thread of recognition in her eyes. "You reached out to me about my mother. Why did you feel compelled?" Every gaze in the room fell upon her, magnifying her insecurities. This was not merely a meeting of two strangers, it was a collision of worlds. She stood at the precipice of opportunity and dread, but behind her, the flickering beacon of Alice's hope urged her on. Taking a deep breath, Sarah began to speak. Each word emerged tentatively, but as she recounted Alice's fragmented memories, something within her shifted. She saw the crumbling walls of a past that had built her up and torn her down. The telling almost felt like reclaiming pieces of her own shattered narrative, one that demanded to be heard. Yet as she spoke, doubts nagged at the edges of her confidence. Was this truly whose acceptance she pursued? Or was it a reflection of her own need for validation? The air thickened with tension, the stakes rising with every syllable. One misstep could shatter the fragile connection she sought to forge. As the room listened intently, Sarah felt the battle within herself intensify, an urge to hide, counterbalancing her drive to reveal the truth. Would she find the courage to continue this transformation? Would her words resonate or turn to ash? The moment hung suspended, powerful and fearful, as heads tilted to hear more. Sarah realized she was now a player in a narrative larger than her own, yet bound to this truth she was shaping. Intrigued eyes met hers. The room was waiting for something vital, and Sarah was poised to decide between retreating to the shadows or stepping boldly into her own light as a catalyst for change. A sudden silence engulfed the room as Sarah's voice fell quiet, leaving an echo of unspoken emotions in the air. Every gaze bore into her, but beneath the weight of their scrutiny, invigorating determination began to stir. Just moments earlier, she had been a fleeting figure in this world of affluence. Now, she felt the ember of significance igniting within her. Quite the story. Michael finally broke the silence, his brows knitted slightly. "But why, Sarah? What do you hope to gain from this?" The questions hung heavy in the room. "You might imagine this is about Alice," she replied, a newfound clarity crystallizing her thoughts. But it is more about connection, a chance for understanding in a world often indifferent to pain. I want to bring hope back, to her and maybe within myself. A ripple of intrigue spread amongst the gathered professionals, softening the stern lines of their faces. It occurred to Sarah then that her vulnerability was not a weakness but a bridge, and the prospect of a connection sprang forth, vital and sustaining. As she continued, an unexpected truth surged forward. She was not merely a vehicle of someone else's story. Her own narrative mattered too, and perhaps it was ready to be unveiled. Sitting amidst sleek stones of polished ambition, Sarah's thoughts spiraled toward the realization of her own potential. She searched for their responses and found unexpected reflection in their eyes. Hesitantly, she broached Michael directly, interpreting the essence of a dynamic she had yet to fully comprehend. You and your mother are tied up in a narrative shaped by expectations. Maybe this is an opportunity to craft a new beginning. For you, for Alice, even for me. Michael's expression softened, the glimmer of recognition dawning amidst his polished facade. Was he beginning to uncover the vulnerability buried beneath his success? The familial tension stirred. Despite his well-crafted exterior, perhaps the weight of his past was heavier than she assumed. I was raised to think power was everything, he replied, half questioning defensively. But power alone can crush anyone, and yet, sometimes it takes humility to connect with the human experience. It's not only about possessions, it's about relationships, Sarah interjected, feeling her words take on weight. With each pronouncement, the fear that had previously suffocated her seemed to wane, revealing strands of self-worth unbeknownst to her. The faces around the table shifted with the rising tide of intrigue. Curiosity wrapped around them, letting the air swell with a fragile hope. Perhaps this was not solely about Michael or Alice, but a collective awakening catalyzed by Sarah's raw honesty. Would you be willing to help her? Michael's pragmatism bounced back into the room, the words fragile yet determined. You've seen the scars she bears. I've lost sight of my mother, but I want to lose you too, if you might have a means to guide her. Sarah knew the challenge ahead would be steep. The stakes were higher than she anticipated, the emotional labyrinths, the unresolved past. But the undercurrents of possibility ignited an enduring flame that pushed her to confront her truth, both for Alice and for herself. Maybe we build this bridge together, she whispered, a thread of resolution woven through her words. It was a proposition that set into motion a series of uncharted decisions, accessible only through the veil of vulnerability that tore through her fear. As they began crafting a plan, doubt ebbed and excitement took root. The clarity of purpose painted her vision like vibrant strokes upon a canvas that had once seemed dreary. What was once a foreign terrain was transforming within her, and before long, characters from disparate worlds would converge into a single narrative. But then, a sudden shift caught Sarah's attention. A sharp knock on the door fractured the atmosphere once more, interrupting her moment of momentum. The interruption felt ominous, as if shadows from the past were encroaching upon their fragile alliance. She glanced at Michael, whose expression had darkened, and Sarah's heart raced anew. What awaited them on the other side? Would they confront hidden truths or face old enemies, sabotaging their newfound connection? In an imperceptible moment, Sarah's resolve began to harden further. She was ready to confront not just the external obstacles, but also the tumult within. As the door creaked open, the stage for their unfolding drama shifted yet again. What lay beyond would test the very essence of who she was becoming. Would she rise? Would she protect her newfound sense of purpose? The answer loomed just out of reach, but one undeniable truth rested close to her heart. Her transformation had only just begun. The door swung open to reveal an unexpected visitor, Alice herself. The fragility of the atmosphere shattered completely as her presence filled the room. Confusion mingled with anticipation, and Sarah's heart raced at the sight of this woman whose struggles had sparked her own resolve. Michael froze, momentarily losing his carefully constructed facade, uncertainty flickering across his face. "Alice?" His voice trembled, carrying a measure of disbelief. "What are you doing here?" Sarah blurted out, your eyes darting from Alice's worn clothing to her face, which bore the burden of countless untold stories. Alice's gaze swept across the gathered group, but landed heavily on Michael, whose vulnerability was laid bare before her. "I need help," she said softly, yet her voice resonated with a depth of experience that Sarah could hardly comprehend. It struck like a lightning bolt, piercing the delicate web they had begun to weave moments before. "Help," Michael echoed, the tension evident in the shift of his body, as if he were balancing on a tightrope. "But why now?" The air thickened with emotion. Sarah could sense that this moment was pivotal for both men, entangled in their own conflicts. She took a breath, preparing to step in to voice what needed to be said. "Alice, we're here for you. We want to help you together." Sarah's voice steadied, infused with an authority she wasn't entirely sure she possessed. The words left her mouth, slowly overshadowing her doubt. Alice regarded her with cautious eyes, searching for signs of authenticity in a world that had often proven to be cruel. "Together?" she repeated, almost incredulous. "You're willing to stand with him?" "Yes," Sarah asserted, feeling a rush of conviction course through her. "You shouldn't have to face anything alone anymore. Not him, not me, none of us. We can build something that makes a difference, a real change." But as the inkling of unity began to form, Sarah sensed a storm brewing beneath the surface. Michael's expression hardened anew, uncertainty creeping back as he grappled with the complex layers of trust and loyalty. She had thought that by unearthing vulnerability, they could create a path forward, yet the shadow of past grievances loomed large. "I don't know if she can trust me," Michael admitted, his gaze rapidly flickering between Sarah and Alice. "I haven't been there." "I think no," Sarah interjected, sensing the urgency to steer the conversation away from division. "You can't let guilt drown the chance to reshape lives. Alice needs steps forward, not shame-filled hearts." "I've never fit in this world," Alice murmured, her voice dropping. It cracked slightly, revealing a hidden weight of despair. "You all have power. I've lost everything." In that moment, Sarah felt the fissures of Alice's reality point back to her own fears. "But you have wisdom, experiences we lack. Those can change lives," she rallied, finding strength in vulnerability. With every word, Sarah's sense of self solidified further, the colors of her identity breaking free from a once monochrome existence. She was not merely the vehicle of someone else's narrative. She was the pen shaping her own story, guiding others in the process. The room crackled with unresolved tension as Alice's thoughts seemed to swirl like autumn leaves around them. "What if I don't know how to start?" "Then we'll figure out together," Sarah declared firmly. The way forward might not be clear, but a mix of desire and purpose started solidifying into a plan. Yet, as the trio began mapping the journey ahead, the creeping doubt still haunted Sarah. Could she really lead? Were they all ready to confront the tragedies of their past together? Just then, a voice echoed from the entrance, pulling everyone's focus. "What's happening here?" A tall figure with a stern expression stood framed in the doorway, an unmistakable authority shrouded in skepticism. The newcomer's eyebrows rose in surprise, suspicion suffusing the air. With perspective shifting again, Sarah's heartbeat quickened, the fragility of their alliance set to be tested all over again. Who was this figure, and what role would they play in the destiny that Sarah now sought to reclaim? Would it challenge her emerging sense of purpose or solidify it once and for all? As the uncertainty swirled, Sarah knew that the time to confront her own inadequacies and the forces that threatened to derail her mission had arrived. Sarah's heart raced as she turned to face the newcomer, features dimly illuminated by the room's sparse light. The stranger stood tall, arms crossed, exuding authority and challenge from every angle, a stark contrast to the emotional vulnerability they had just begun to unveil. "What are you doing here?" the figure demanded. eyes narrowing on each face in the room, finally settling on Michael before flicking to Alice. The atmosphere shifted again, charged with unspoken tension. "Nina," Michael breathed, a mixture of recognition and reluctance. "This isnt what? A charity case? A sideshow for you to gawk at?" Nina interrupted, unyielding. "Tell me you're not considering involving her in your latest self-redemption scheme." She gestured to Alice with a dismissive wave. Sarah felt as though a spotlight had illuminated her worst fears. Nina was not merely a figure of authority. She was the personification of doubt, both for Michael and for Sarah herself. Each word cast a shadow over their fragile plans, clouding the possibility of collaboration with skepticism. Alice is more than just a story, Sarah managed, desperately searching for grounding in her own voice. She has experiences and wisdom that can guide us. We want to help each other. Nina looked at Sarah as though sizing her up, assessing the validity of her budding leadership. "Guide? That's rich. How can you think you're equipped to lead?" Each syllable was punctuated by the challenge embedded in her gaze, stripping Sarah's confidence raw. "I'm not leading anyone," Sarah began, feeling the weight of Nina's critique pressing down on her as a reminder of the theories she had read but rarely practiced. "I just want us to figure this out together." Struggling against her instinct to recoil under pressure, Sarah anchored herself in the moment. This was the test and opportunity to either crumble before doubt or to forge a pathway through it. "Alice needs support, not judgment," Sarah pressed, taking a step forward. "I've felt the sting of isolation, just as you have. If we don't take a chance on one another, how will anything ever change?" Alice, observing the clash, shifted nervously, caught in the crossfire of conflicting energies. A silent battle raged within her, as she seemed almost to retreat, worried that she might become an unwitting pawn in an emotional chess game. "Trust is earned, Sarah," Nina responded, her tone shifting slightly, revealing a hint of vulnerability. "You may think you're ready to lead, but the stakes are high. Lives are at risk. You don't know what's out there, what you're really up against." At that moment, Sarah felt the familiar coiling of self-doubt. Could she remain steady against such a potent tide? "Then help me understand," Sarah breathed, the realization washing over her that empowering herself meant challenging others, exposing the complexities hidden beneath the surface. "What I need to learn? What am I missing?" The room fell painfully silent, the question hanging like a fragile thread. Nina's demeanor softened slightly, perhaps recognizing the earnestness behind Sarah's plea, yet the skepticism shadowed her features. "Understanding comes from experience, not just words," Nina said finally. "You need to see the world as it is. Talk to people like Alice and stop treating their lives as projects." "Is that why you're here?" Michael piped up, his voice trembling as if he were walking on eggshells. "To judge? I'm here because you need guidance." Nina's voice edged with frustration, yet fatigue mixed within it, making her stance a little less formidable. "And I care. But I want to pretend that every story has a neat ending." An ember of hope flickered within Sarah, an invitation wrapped inside the challenge. They weren't just discussing theories. They were skirting the edge of personal accountability, ready to collectively uncover the raw truths underneath. "Then let us get to work," Sarah said firmly, shaking off doubt like a tattered coat. "Let us not waste this moment." But just as determination blossomed, another voice broke through the tension, one that sent a chill down Sarah's spine. "How quaint, but you all forgot one thing." The door creaked open wider, and a man with a sinister smile entered, eyes glinting with malice. "No one escapes their past. You're all in my game now." In that instant, the room tightened around Sarah, and she sensed the weight of her mission intensifying. Would the visions of collaboration finally fracture beneath the weight of unavoidable confrontations? What secrets from the past were poised to resurface, threatening everything she was beginning to build? The room stilled, encased in an uneasy silence, as the stranger's words hung in the air like a guillotine, ready to drop. Sarah's pulse quickened, and she struggled to maintain composure. Who was this man? What grip did he hold over their fragile intentions? And how would he exploit their vulnerabilities? Do you think you can just work together and pretend the world doesn't want to tear you apart? He continued, lurking in the shadows of their fear. You think you're safe? But you're playing a game without knowing the rules. Sarah's instinct flared with resistance. This was not the time for his theatrics. Nina crossed her arms, her earlier authority crumbling slightly against the newcomer's presence. Michael shot Sarah a worried glance, and Alice seemed to shrink further into herself. I don't know who you are, Sarah asserted, unable to keep the tremor from her voice. But I know our past doesn't define us. You don't own this space. We're here to make change happen. The man chuckled, the sound disturbing in its mockery. Isn't that sweet? But bravery without knowledge is foolishness. He stepped forward, peeling away the facade of confidence Sarah had desperately constructed. How will you lead when you don't even know the depths of the waters you're attempting to navigate? Sarah grappled with his words, wrestling internally. There was a truth buried within his skepticism. While she had been thrust into this leadership role, the weight of experience eluded her. With each second that ticked away, uncertainty blossomed within her, doubt entangled with resolve. She had to confront what lay beneath the surface of her own intentions. Alice has been through things we can't begin to understand, Sarah said, redirecting focus. That's why we need her voice, her story. It's not just about me leading, it's about all of us coming together. And she turned to the man, voice steadying. You need to let us find our way. Think again. He leaned closer, eyes glinting as if there was something more sinister behind his facade. It doesn't work that way. People will always want to drag you back into the muck. You think you can rise above it? I'm standing right here, a reminder of everything you fled from. A wave of anger unfurled inside Sarah. She had fought to untangle herself from her own past. It had been an uphill battle for her to carve out space for growth. Yet here he was, throwing doubt like a bucketful of cold water. Then teach me, she challenged, the grit in her voice sharpening. If you're so knowledgeable about this game, if you're so sure of what we face, teach us how to play it. His smirk faltered for a heartbeat, and surprise flickered in his eyes. Perhaps there's a glimmer of fight in you after all, he admitted, his voice dropping an octave. Dangerous now. But this one be just a game. It's a test of sacrifice, pain, and knowing when to embrace your darkness. Faced with the depth of his challenge, Sarah felt her heart pounding furiously against her ribcage. The prospect of uncovering her own shadows haunted her, but also ignited a furious fire. The quest for personal growth demanded that she not only navigate new truths, but also confront fears embedded deep within. Let me face the darkness, she said, her tone quieter, yet resolute. If there's something hidden in my past worth learning, then I want it unearthed. Let us draw out what we're fighting against. In that tenuous moment, the tides shifted amongst the group. Perhaps even Nina felt the pulsating energy of Sarah's determination. If this was indeed a game, it would be one of strategy and survival. But just as Sarah began to feel firm upon her newfound purpose, the man's expression morphed into a mix of predatory interest and something darker, as if her words thrilled him. There's always a price to pay, he warned, a chilling warning draped in allure. Are you ready to give everything for the truth? Sarah stood at the precipice of a decision that could alter everything, heart pounding with adrenaline and fear. Their journey had taken a perilous turn, and the stakes were escalating, much higher than any of them were prepared for. What revelations awaited them in the darkness? Would they conquer their fears, or would the shadows consume them entirely? The air hung thick with tension as Sarah faced the stranger, her heart racing with a mix of resolve and trepidation. His warning collided with her determination, sending her thoughts spiraling. A price to pay? She mused silently, grappling with the implications of his sinister offer. The darkness he spoke of was not just a concept. It felt palpable, lurking just beyond the periphery of her consciousness. A flicker of doubt dashed through her mind. What did she really know about sacrifice? Her attempts to lead had often been stifled by hesitation, overshadowed by the expectations and anxieties of the group. But now wasn't the moment to blink. She needed to confront not just her fears, but also the demons that had haunted her for years. Michael's face flickered with apprehension as he leaned closer. "Sarah, are you sure about this? We don't even know him." His concern was evident, but Sarah understood that uncertainty could be crippling. She had to muster a deeper conviction, not just for herself, but for her team. They needed to see strength in her, to believe they could face whatever lay ahead. "Teaching doesn't always come wrapped in safety," she said, her voice gaining momentum. "Sometimes it's messy, dark, and painful. If this man holds a mirror to our vulnerabilities, then the answers might lie in embracing them." Nina finally spoke, her tone haunted yet resolute. "I don't want to go back to that darkness, Sarah. To confront it means risking everything." Her words resonated with the fragility that had crept back into the room, a reminder of the emotional toll they had all endured. But as Sarah looked around, she saw layers of battles etched into the faces of her companions. They had all been through turmoil, and now the prospect of growth lay just beyond. "This is our chance," Sarah urged, her determination sharpening. "We've hidden from our past for too long. It's time to reclaim our narratives. We can't allow fear to paralyze us any longer. This is our true moment of transformation." The corner of the stranger's lips curled in a slow, calculating grin, as if enjoying the emergence of Sarah's courage. "Bravery is one thing. Embracing the chaos of your truth is another entirely. Are you prepared to unearth what you have buried?" Without breaking eye contact with him, Sarah nodded. "I am. Show me." As the strangers stepped back, the air around them seemed to ripple with anticipation. The group's dynamics had shifted. Sarah could sense the weight of their collective willingness to dive into uncomfortable truths. With her newfound sense of purpose, she realized that each person needed to confront their shadows in their own way, drawing strength through honesty and vulnerability. "Let us define what this sacrifice looks like," she said, rallying her thoughts. "If we are to move forward, each of us must commit to sharing with the group. Face our fears, expose our weaknesses, reclaim our strength, all of it. That way, we can prepare to fight back against the shadows that loom over us." This blueprint echoed in the room like a declaration, igniting the others' resolve. Even as they hesitated, a subtle shift marked the air of blooming solidarity. Yet fear still reigned, lurking in the depths of their minds, ready to unearth itself. Just as Sarah thought she could grasp the reins of this tumultuous journey, the stranger's voice cut through once more. "Be wary. When you dig into the past, sometimes the dead rise to meet you." A chill swept through her, but somewhere deep within, she felt a flicker of readiness against the uncertainty. Would they have a resilience to face their ghosts? As the moment stabilized, another question unfurled in Sarah's mind. What startling truths lay in wait, and could she summon the strength to confront whatever darkness awaited? Once again, she teetered on the edge of transformation, and the stakes had never felt higher. The game was on the first move, would be theirs to make. What awaited them on this treacherous path? The room fell into a heavy silence after the stranger's ominous warning, each member of the group caught in their own web of fear and anticipation. Sarah could feel the weight of their stares, their expectations. As the tension began to solidify into a palpable force, she realized the transformative power of vulnerability each person carried. It wasn't just about her. It was about everyone stepping into their own truths. "Okay," she said, deliberately breaking the silence. "Let us start with one thing. Each of us has faced darkness, but what if we share the resilience that came from it? What if we took turns recounting our battles?" Michael shifted uncomfortably. "And what if those stories drag us back? What if reliving our pasts is just another way to get lost in them?" "That's the risk I'm talking about," Sarah replied, grounding her voice with conviction. "We can be consumed by fear, or we can choose to confront these stories head-on, letting them elevate us instead of imprisoning us." As her words hung in the air, A subtle shift began to ripple through the group. Sarah felt a pulse of solidarity. They were all here, standing on the precipice of something monumental, and that shared instability drew them together. We can frame it as a timeline, she suggested. Each person shares a pivotal moment, one that shaped who they are today. How do we know where to begin? Nina's voice cracked, revealing the deep-rooted anxiety beneath her composed facade. Begin anywhere, Sarah urged, a sense of urgency propelling her. It's less about the perfect starting point and more about the willingness to share. Our pasts are like tattoos etched into our skin. Some may fade, others remain sharp. All have meaning. A quiet nod from Michael indicated the momentum was shifting. I'll go first, he said, his fingers twitching nervously as he clasped them over his knees. When I was a kid, I felt invisible. My parents fought constantly. I drowned in their chaos. I remember the day I tried to intervene. I thought I could fix it, but all I did was make it worse. I learned then that I wasn't TA's savior. That moment opened the floodgates. One by one, Sarah's companions began to share. Each story uncovered deeper layers of pain, remorse, and the shadows they carried. Sarah could see the impact. Their courage filled the space, a community swimming in vulnerability. As she listened, Sarah felt her own story emerging at the edges of her thoughts. Memories surfaced, encapsulated moments of both shame and triumph. A twisted knot formed in her stomach as she wrestled with revealing her own depth. She had always been the anchor, the stable presence for others. But in exposing her own truths, would she undermine that role? Now it's your turn, Sarah, the stranger's voice echoed back, shredding her resolve. What have you kept hidden? Caught off guard, she felt a deep well of fear bubble within her. In a flash, the vulnerability she always encouraged others to embrace became a daunting wall. Yet, perhaps this confrontation was not only necessary. It was essential that as she inhaled, readying herself to share, a firm notion crystallized within her. This journey was not merely about facing fears. It was about dismantling the legacy of silence she had held. There was a strength awaiting her within that uncertainty. As she began, but just as the words formed in her mind, the room trembled with a sudden shift. A sharp rapping at the door interrupted her. A new wave of tension coursed through the group as they all turned at once. A new chapter threatening to unfold unexpectedly. Who was it now? And what did their arrival mean for the stories they had just begun to tell? The knock reverberated through the silence like a thunderclap, jolting Sarah from the tempest of her thoughts. She felt her heart race, a mix of trepidation and curiosity swirling inside her. The group's collective gaze zeroed in on the door, each face reflecting a mirrored anxiety. Would this new arrival add layers to their vulnerabilities or expose them to greater danger? Should we answer it? Nina whispered, the quiver in her voice mirroring Sarah's uncertainty. That depends, Sarah replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Are we willing to face whatever comes next together? The question hung in the air, a challenge, a dare. As the rapping persisted, she sensed something shifting in her once confident demeanor. Was she truly prepared to invite in the unknown? Yet a louder nagging thought pulled at her. What if this person brought the very answers she desperately sought? With a deep breath, Sarah stood and crossed the room, each step a statement of intention. The door creaked open, revealing a disheveled man standing on the threshold, his clothes worn and dusty, his eyes shadowed with urgency. Is this the place? He asked, voice hoarse and edged with desperation. Michael stepped forward, clearly unsettled. We're in the middle of something important. Perhaps you should. I'm looking for somebody. The stranger interjected, desperation turning to anger. I don't care about your something important. My mother is missing, and I need help. The words hit Sarah like a tidal wave, drowning out her own tumultuous thoughts. Missing? The implications were profound. A mother who hadn't grappled with the thought of losing theirs. A torrent of empathy ignited within her. What is her name? She asked softly, her previous anxieties momentarily displaced by the urgency of this man's plight. Ruth, he replied, a flicker of hope lighting his otherwise dim expression. "Is there a reason to believe she's in danger?" Sarah probed, instinctively stepping into a role that felt both alien and familiar. "She has been acting strange," he replied, eyes darting. "And she is not home." We had to fight the sound of shifting around the room, pulled back Sarah's focus. Michael and Nina were looking exchanged worried glances, their own tales of tumult now suffocating under the weight of this unexpected crisis. She could sense that their instinct was to retreat, to bury their stories back under layers of fear. But Sarah felt differently. The vulnerability they had embraced moments ago was now an unrivaled strength, a shared foundation upon which they could build. The air vibrated with potential. Her voice emerged resolute. "We can help you. If Ruth matters to you, then you're not alone in this." With each passing second, Sarah felt her resolve hardening like concrete. This was a chance to bridge the divide between personal struggles and collective action, to transform fragmented fears into a singular purpose. She turned back to the group, their eyes wide with shock and curiosity. "Let us put our stories on hold for now. This is bigger than each of us. We can't let fear keep us silent while someone might truly need us." There was a ripple of murmurs, then silence. It was Nina who finally nodded. "You're right. We should help." Standing together, they formed a new alliance, fanning out to explore the strange intertwining of their lives. Sarah realized she was stepping outside the comfortable boundaries of her role, embracing an unpredictable path ahead. As they gathered around Ruth's son, a flicker of realization took root in Sarah's mind. Here was a crossroads. How would she manage to confront her own truths while helping another navigate his own chaos? Before she could put those thoughts into words, a faint ringing from the stranger's pocket interrupted. He pulled out a phone, the screen illuminating urgency. It's her." The excitement and dread coursing through the group grew palpable. What would Ruth say? And how might her fears intertwine with Sarah's own healing yet to come? In the depths of fraught emotions and fears woven together, Sarah felt a new chapter beginning, not just for Ruth, but for herself as well. The moment felt electric, every heartbeat poised for the reveal about to come. What truth would emerge, and how would it resonate through each life assembled in that room? The air hummed with anticipation as Sarah and the others gathered closer, each face lit by a mix of hope and dread. The stranger's eyes widened in disbelief as he answered the call, voice shaking. "Mom, where are you?" The gravity of his situation pressed down on Sarah. She understood intimately the essence of loss and the drive to reconnect. I don't know where I am," a trembling voice responded from the other end. Each word rang like a clarion call, reverberating inside Sarah's mind. Ruth was alive, yet the pain woven through her voice revealed depths of struggle and fear. "Listen to me," the son replied urgently, the desperation clawing at his throat. "I'm coming to find you. I won't let you be alone." As the conversation unfolded, a thread of clarity wove itself through Sarah's thoughts. The shared beats of vulnerability they had previously uncovered felt like a foundation, one that had birthed courage and resilience amid chaos. Moments later, the call ended with a shaky promise, and the stranger turned to the group, eyes now alight with determination. "I know where she often goes. If we go together, maybe we can find her." Sarah felt the weight of the moment surging within her. Each individual present had shared pieces of their own narrative, and now these stories flowed together, intertwining into a collective force. Here was an embodiment of what she had sought, a bridge spanning their differences and nurturing the inherent strength of vulnerability. "Let us move," Sarah declared, each word instilled with a sense of urgency. "Together, we'll bring Ruth home." In that moment, she felt grounded. No longer only the homeless woman tethered to her past, Sarah was now a qualified leader, empowered by the strength of collective resolution. They formed a makeshift team, diverse yet united by purpose. An invigorating energy filled the room, propelling them onward as they stepped outside. The sun hung low, canvas strokes of gold bathing the streets in warmth. With each stride, Sarah felt another layer of self-doubt peel away. She was not just documenting the past anymore. She was creating an action plan for the future, one rooted in understanding and collective tenacity. They ventured through familiar streets, the stranger guiding them to the park where Ruth often found solace. It was this territory that had fueled Sarah's earlier hesitations, yet now she viewed it through a lens of renewed strength. The park unfolded before them, and there, sitting on a bench, was Ruth. She appeared fragile, as if the world had worn her down, but her presence illuminated the gathering clouds of their shared anxieties. Her son rushed forward, enveloping her in an embrace that transcended words. In that gesture, Sarah glimpsed the essence of human connection, a force that could no longer be tethered just to the past. The group stood back, realizing the depth of this poignant reconciliation. Sarah felt a burgeoning sense of achievement within her. This was not just Ruth's homecoming. It was the conclusion of Sarah's internal struggles. She had stepped into her power as an advocate, rising beyond her previous fears. Taking a deep breath, with determination coursing through her veins, Sarah approached the reunited pair. "Ruth, I want you to know that you're surrounded by those who care," she said, her voice steady with conviction. "Let us talk together, share, and rebuild what has been lost. You deserve love, and we're here to help." Tears glistened in Ruth's eyes, reflecting the shared pain and newfound hope. In that moment of connection, Sarah comprehended the profound transformation she had undergone. No longer a mere vessel for others' narratives, she was now the creator of her own path, bolstered by the tales of others as stepping stones to advance. The quiet vibrancy of the park wrapped around them, transforming it from a place of uncertainty to a sanctuary of healing. Each story shared brought clarity, unraveling the knots of fear that once bound them. With Ruth safe and surrounded by love, the battle of daily survival shifted into a journey of rebuilding. The delicate threads of their lives would continue intertwining, crafting a tapestry rich in resilience and human connection. And Sarah understood now her role within it. As the day began to fade, Sarah felt a weightlessness take hold. The tapestry of her past had woven itself into a future filled with promise, courage, and the intimate knowledge that her voice mattered. She had achieved growth tangible, unwavering, and shared. This was not just a story of survival. It was one of triumph, resonating deeply within her soul. In this moment of closure, Sarah had accomplished an essential milestone, not only reconnecting Ruth with her son, but also solidifying her place within this narrative. Now, this very moment beckons you. You need to subscribe now, so you won't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that unfold the journey of personal transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, as every click counts. Don't wait even one more second to share this captivating conclusion with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful story of overcoming adversity. Comment below with your thoughts and theories about this finale. Your engagement fuels the fire of transformation in many others.